Our next two speakers are going to look at the impact for entities that joined before 31 March, before the government announcement, before the board was commissioned to review the unanticipated revenue outcomes. Our speakers are Wayne Plummer and Peter Murray. Wayne's an Australian corporate tax partner at PwC with over 25 years of corporate tax experience. Advising a range of multinational companies. And of course, Peter Murray, whom you saw earlier, the outgoing president of the Tax Institute and a senior partner in KPMG. Peter specialises in advising across a range of corporate tax issues, domestic and international tax matters. Wayne, over to you.
Thanks, Tony. Good morning. So I think as Colin mentioned, it doesn't feel like that long ago that we were all standing up here at the last TIA, Tax Consolidation Symposium. There were a whole list of very similar topics, but obviously the content of each of these sessions is markedly different. And how the Australian tax landscape has changed over that time, not just in terms of the content of the changes that we've seen and these changes in particular, but also the very significant retrospective elements of many of the changes that we are seeing. So when I talked 12 months ago about the impact of the 2010 changes, I went through and explained a number of opportunities that were quite clear in the law, that were supported by specific examples in the explanatory memorandum, that were backed up by multiple government announcements. I also went through a number of opportunities that were less clear and went through and explained some of the uncertainties. It wasn't inconceivable at the time that the government would come out and refine the legislation and refine some of the boundaries and address some of the uncertainties that were identified at the time. What was inconceivable to me at the time was that the government would come out and remove many of the elements of the legislation that were clear. And that's exactly what they've done. And not only in a way that removes the opportunities that, or the laws that were in place from June last year, but also in a number of respects, amending legislation that has been on the statute books for over 10 years, since 2002. So in that context, I'm sure all of us who have lived through this experience will be approaching future government announcements and even legislative amendments with much greater trepidation and scepticism. So on that note, this session deals with the impact for companies that have joined a tax consolidator group up until 31 March 2011. I'm going to address this, or at least the slide deck that you have in the back of the packs addresses this from two different angles. I'm going to focus on the first of those, and that is a comparison between the rules, the proposed rules that we're looking at, compared to the rules that we thought were the law under the 2010 changes. The slide deck also includes a number of slides that go into a little bit more detail around some of those aspects and some of the opportunities specifically that have been removed and some of that remain. A number of those slides I've sort of included in the slide deck for your reference, and we'll skim through some of those based on the time that we have this morning. I'm going to have a look at the RTFI, new RTFI value cap. Also a list of areas of remaining uncertainty that are still going to be a cause of some contention as we deal with these new rules. And then a diagrammatic representation of how rights to future income have been clawed back and how those concepts, or the concept of that asset, relates to the broader accounting intangible of customer relationship. Peter's then going